All right, Algebra 1A students, welcome to part 1 of lesson 3.7. In tonight's video, we're talking about absolute value and absolute value equations. Absolute value means distance away from zero. So it's like the number of spaces a number is away from zero on the number line. So the absolute value of negative 4 is 4, because negative 4 is 4 spaces away from 0 on the number line. The absolute value of positive 6 is 6, because the number 6 is 6 spaces away from 0 on the number line. The symbol for absolute value is two vertical lines, one on either side of the number. So here we have absolute value of negative 3, straight line, negative 3, straight line, absolute value of negative 3. And we would write that the absolute value of negative 3 equals 3. Please make sure the important information here gets written down in your notes. One other crucial thing that must be in your notes is that the absolute value of a number can never be negative, ever. The absolute value is never negative, so it can only be positive. The absolute value can only be positive because the absolute value of a negative number is positive. So in this section, we're going to solve equations that involve absolute value. So equations like this. What are the solutions of the absolute value of x plus 2 equals 9? Well, the first step, step 1 is always to get the absolute value alone. Get the absolute value part alone. Okay, just like we would usually get an x variable alone. Get the absolute value part alone. In order to do that, I simply have to subtract 2 on both sides of this equation, because right now my absolute value is being added by 2. I'd like to undo that. So I subtract 2 and get rid of that. And on the other side, I have 9 minus 2, which is 7. So now I know that the absolute value of x is equal to 7. Right, the absolute value of x is equal to 7. Now that I have my absolute value piece alone, I'm ready for step 2. Okay, I'm going to split the absolute value into a positive and a negative option. One option here is that x equals negative 7, because the absolute value of a negative 7 is 7. The absolute value of negative 7 is 7, so x could equal negative 7. Or my other option is that x equals positive 7, because the absolute value of 7 is 7. So my two options are x equals negative 7, x equals positive 7. Okay? And that's my two answers. I have two answers to that problem. Every absolute value problem should have two answers. I have one I'd like you to try. Try this one for a minute. See if you can figure out the two numbers that n could equal, and then come on back and I'll show you what we should get. All right, my two answers here should say n equals 3, n equals negative 3. Obviously, these can be in whatever order you want, but both of them are correct answers. N equals 3, n equals negative 3. Okay? Now sometimes we have more than just a variable inside of the absolute value. So Like here I have absolute value of 2x minus 5 equals 13. There, the absolute value piece is already by itself, because that's all that's on one side. It's just the absolute value of an expression of 2x minus 5. So I can split right away. There's two options, right? 2x minus 5 could equal 13, or 2x minus 5 could equal negative 13. Both of those would work fine in this equation. Once I have it split up now I can solve each one for x. So I'll add 5 on both sides and divide by 2, and I can get x equals 9. And then over here I do the same thing. I add 5 on both sides, divide by 2, I get x equals negative 4. Those are my two answers. Okay? So when we have more stuff in the absolute value than just the variable, we have to do more solving after we split. It's like a step 3. Okay, it's like a step 3. So here's one for you to try. It's a nice easy one, but already the absolute value stuff is alone, so you can just split right away. Split, split. Two answers. Go ahead and find them, please. All right, our two options, we should end up with our t equals 3 and t equals negative 3, just like our last problem, because we split and we get 2t equals positive 6, divide by 2 and we get this. Or we get 2t equals negative 6, divide by 2, we get that. Okay? Two answers always. But we might have to solve after we split. The last thing we need to deal with in this video is that sometimes absolute value equations don't have a solution, meaning nothing that you put in will work. No solutions, right? Because we've mentioned that the absolute value cannot be negative. Non-negative, it can't be negative. Okay? So if it can't be negative, when we reach a point where the absolute value equals a negative, we will simply say there are no solutions. So if I'm asked to solve this equation, and I want to first get the absolute value all by itself, I will minus 12 on both sides right away, and that'll be gone. I'll be left with 3 times the absolute value of 2z plus 9 equals negative 2. Okay, and now I just have to get rid of this 3 that's multiplied in front of my absolute value. And then my absolute value will be all alone and I can deal with it then. So I divide both sides by 3 to cancel that away. And then I divide this side by 3. So what's left is the absolute value of 2z plus 9 is equal to negative 2/3, right? But immediately I see a problem, because the absolute value of whatever this is, the absolute value of it can never be negative 2/3, right? This negative 2/3 is a big problem for me. So as soon as I see a negative 2/3 on one side, or a negative number at all with an absolute value on the other, I say no solutions. Okay, no solutions. Because the absolute value is equal to a negative. If you have questions at all about absolute value or absolute value equations, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful night.